Call meeting to order.
Michelle, is this your idea for date night? Did you tell me? Cheat day, Charles.
We're going to have
Get
roll
free
call.
coffee.
Rusty Branson,
Here.
Rich McCoy,
I'm here.
Ron Pacifica,
Here.
David Coe,
Here.
Michelle Stone's here, Harvey Danvin,
Here.
and Teresa Stevens, and Dr. Marino, who's not here. Okay. David, would you please lead us in?
We have the power heads. Gracious Heavenly Father, thanks for this wonderful state we live in the county of Marion, and the great leadership we have in this county. Please bring your wisdom in all government meetings, especially the Marion County Hospital District. I would also like to thank the staff that we've got, that you've blessed us with, to carry out our mission in hopes that we improve the health of all citizens in Marion County. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you.
We're gonna miss those friends.
Very nice, thank you. Moving on to public comments. Deborah, I understand we have a public comment.
We have one public comment from Corey. I don't want to mess up your last name. Oh, I'm sorry. David. So here is, we have a 3-minute.
I don't be very long. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Carly with the Phoenix, South Florida. I'm the new business development rep, and we're trying to have more of a presence in Marion County. So I just wanted to be one of your point of contacts if you guys ever needed it. I left my info on the sign-in, but I also have cards of my own I can give you guys as well. If you don't know the Phoenix House, which I'm sure most of you do. But we are the residential facility that's located in Citra that we help. We're a nonprofit, so we help anyone, even if they're homeless on the street, get treatment for substance abuse primary. But we really want to focus on Marion County because that's where we are. We've been here for 25, this year will be 26 years, and just want to be the best that we can and hear your feedback on whatever we need and to work on it. And I can privately set meetings if you're wanting to speak with my leadership as well to address any concerns too. But just wanted to introduce myself because hopefully you'll be seeing me more frequently in the county too.
So how many residents at the Phoenix House are from Marion County?
That's a great question because I don't do our admissions, but I know a lot of them are.
I think it was 8 the last time I was there, I had 290.
8? I can double check that. I can ask right now and ask her to let me know what the census is. Because I don't handle in-house anything just about, because I do all of our outside marketing, but I can find out for you for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. All right, real quick before we get into approving the minutes, we have a little change up in our plans. One of our board members is not going to be able to be here for our June meeting, which would be his last meeting. So Mr. Coe, I would like to read something on behalf of the board. On behalf of the entire organization, I want to express our deepest gratitude for your extraordinary service on the board of trustees over the past 12 years. I believe you started from day one, is that correct?
Yes, so
Correct.
Your leadership has been instrumental in guiding us through significant milestones and achievements. Under your guidance, we embarked on strategic grant initiatives and research, designed and implemented large-scale community-wide health projects, notably the Active Marion Project and fitness and nutrition in schools. We have been cornerstones of our efforts. These initiatives grounded in the health pillars and strategies, you help establish impact at least a quarter of our population each year. David, your vision and dedication have made a profound difference in our community, and we are deeply grateful for your contributions and unwavering commitment. Thank you very much.
I'm proud to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry for the mess. All right, moving on to approval of the previous minutes. If everyone's had a chance to read them.
Madam Chair, I have one recommended correction. When we talk about the insurance information, I'd like to tell you that please refer to those that the board, the trustees acknowledge receipt of that document, just so that board members and trustees are aware of what our insurance limits are.
Okay. Can we make that change? What change is made? With that change as recommended by Rusty, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion passes. new business, moving into investments. We'll turn it over to Nathan and Nikki.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Good to see you all again. We'll go ahead and get started with a brief market recap to inform the portfolio results. After what we know was a strong start to the year during the first quarter, unfortunately, April was a negative month for growth assets across the board, and the story was essentially a continuation of this now widely anticipated reversal in the interest rate outlook, just given how stubborn inflation has been and strong economic data continuing to come in. Although last week's inflation reading does throw a little bit of a wrench in that. It's still widely contested whether the Fed is going to raise rates as in June as previously anticipated. So this caused bond yields to rise, and it did generate some market volatility, and the increase in yields caused even defensive strategies to underperform during the month of April. If we move forward a couple of slides to look at the portfolio's positioning at the total fund level, we can see that we're well on our way to being in line with the new interim strategic target, with a few categories that will still take slightly more time, like diversifying marketable alternatives. I know that one jumps out at you, given that gap on the page. We won't necessarily revisit the underlying providers' positioning in too much detail, since I know we heard a good amount from each of them during last month's meeting, but there are some categories that we acknowledge and we know are currently out of compliance relative to that benchmark. So for example, if you look at Truist and Crescent, they were on the higher end of the equity policy range when the new investment policy statement where we lowered it went into effect. And they were on the lower end of the private investment range. So those increases to private investments are going to be funded from public equity. So it's going to take a little extra time, as they've already explained to us. And then with Greystone, we know that they were on the very low end of liquid marketable alternatives, but then on the higher end for illiquid alternatives. So again, all of that is going to take time, but overall things are tracking within our expectations. And as always, we'll continue to update you and flag any concerns that arise as we continue along the path. So if we move a few slides forward, Nathan, piece to the corpus table, wanted to give you an idea before Nathan takes over where the portfolio is sitting. As of the end of April, the total fund market value was $294 million and a half, so slightly down from where we were obviously in March. Thus far, if we fast forward to where we are in present day May, markets have rallied, so we are hoping that the month will end in the black and that the portfolio will give back some of April's losses. But I'll turn it over to Nathan to talk more about attribution.
Yeah, thanks, EP. One final comment on this slide before we move on is just to note, I guess one of the questions you can obviously see, there's so much data on this page, is this portfolio, is this foundation making money? And if you focus on the first column, the market value, it's been volatile, just reflecting where markets are. But actually over the last 6-7 months, there's been a lot of ground that has been made back up, right? Kind of $20-30 million of market gains from the lows of October 2023 to where we are today. Slide 17 really asks the question, at the aggregate level, do we beat the benchmark? And the answer was unfortunately not. It was a close miss. So the total fund fell by 2.4% in value. As Evie alluded to earlier, that's kind of compared to -5% for US equities. So, somewhat not a surprise, but did marginally underperform the benchmark by 13 basis points, which is that dark red. In terms of where that came from, really that's shown in the green in the bottom middle, and there's two main areas. One is actually being underweight to the new asset class, diversifying market alternatives, which was actually positive over the month, and doing what we would expect, that diversification, that portfolio insurance, if you will. And on the flip side, still having quite a bit of an overweight in US equities, which on that 1 month basis did lag. There wasn't good manager value adds. This is managers beating the benchmarks within their composites, which offsets some of the losses. If we move then through the three areas, we'll first touch on Truist, which was the biggest laggard of the month, so minus 33 basis points. That's the dark red column at the bottom top left. And you will see very much a kind of similarity of where the drivers of underperformance came from. So again, those two asset allocation decisions, the fact that Truist was still 10% overweight to US equities and 5.5% underweight to diversified alternatives, both lagged, detracted from performance. That was kind of partly offset by this big win in fixed income, you can see here in orange. And we do know actually a third of their fixed income portfolio is in cash. So in a month when yields rise and fixed income loses money, having a third of your portfolio in cash would always make you look really, really good. And that's what happened over the month for Truist. For Crescent, so these have kind of been more of our star performer. If you look back over the last 1 year, they beat the benchmark, but they also had a narrower miss, but still a miss in April. Similar story in terms of the asset allocation decisions. Their main offsetting manager alpha actually came from US equity. So the Caladan BBC Income Fund is categorized by them as US equity, and that significantly outperformed the index over the month. And then finally, to round things off, Greystone. So Greystone is of a similar level of underperformance as Crescent, down 24 basis points. Theirs is almost entirely due to this diversified multiple alternatives. As Evie alluded to, their hands are more tied just because they've got these overweight positions in private markets, and they're unable to unwind them as quickly as liquid positions. They did have some areas of positive performance, but overall still a little bit of a drag on the portfolio. And then this is really the slide that we wanted to end on. I know, again, there's lots of numbers on this slide, but really what we're doing, and this is a slide that we didn't have before the bullshit came on the scene, which is aggregating performance of all three providers to say, at the overall level, are we achieving our objectives? And I think it's worth taking a step back to say, well, what is it that we're trying to achieve together? As was alluded to earlier in the meeting, really we're trying to improve the lives and well-being, health of Marion County residents. We do that through earning a sustainable return, but we have pretty strict constraints on the amount of risk that we can take to achieve those returns. So our top priority is actually capital preservation for not losing money. Then it's achieving our CPI plus 4% objective, or think of it as like 6.5%. And then it's doing that with a portfolio of high liquidity. And whilst I appreciate that these numbers only go back 18 months or so, actually the portfolio has done that. And over the last year, we're up just under 10%. That is significantly below US equities alone. Unfortunately, life and investment isn't lived in hindsight. But we do know that, I guess, given the constraints and the risk management we have in place, overall, we're pretty comfortable with how this portfolio is doing. I'll pause there. That's all the prepared comments we have for you, and just see if there's any questions by any of the trustees.
I have a couple. So on the real assets, Greystone's the only one with real assets. What do they have and when do they get those?
So real assets is a combination of real estate, infrastructure, commodities. Real assets is actually best shown on this slide. We've given the providers flexibility not to invest, so they have a lower bound of 0. On the aggregate level, there's a 2% allocation. Now, over the month, there was some underperformance in this area. There was an overweight position, I believe it was by Greystone, to real estate, which, given the expectations of interest rate hikes got pushed out, that was negative. As you said, we fast forwarded the clock to today, probably almost all of those losses would have been made back, just given how interest rate sensitive it is and where yields have gone in May. But that's the position so far. So 2% at the overall level, just over $6 million. about a third of this, so think about $2 million probably real estate, $2 million in listed infrastructure, and around $2 million across the commodities and also TIPS, the Treasury Insurance Protected Security Products.
But the other two guys have nothing in that category, is that right?
Yes.
So if they underperformed, then they would be closer to the limits than getting worse than the limits, right? Because the value would have decreased, and they would have gotten closer to the 0 to 2%. Right? But I thought
yes.
If they underperformed, then that exacerbated their position, but it's quite the opposite.
So Truist is the one provider that hasn't got any so far position. I think they are intended to take a position, not to get to the 5% target allocation. So that individual decision has been beneficial over April, but as noted before, there's other areas which are costly.
Yeah, so maybe I'm confused, but what is the limits on that allocation?
Sorry, Rich.
I'm sorry, what are the parameters on that allocation for real assets? 0 to what?
I think it's 0 to 7%.
Is that right? Are we looking at that? Is that what it said? Sorry. I didn't think it said that, to be honest with you. That's why I'm asking for confirmation on that.
Yeah, that's correct, Nathan. The new policy is 0 to 7%.
Okay. So then I guess the next question I got is, on a foundation model, we actually take less risk than most foundations take. We did a study on that and we realized that. But you put the priorities as preserving capital and then making money. And that's the way that, say, the Harvard Foundation model looks at it?
So that's the constraints that's in your IPS. That's the order.
I need to be shown that because that's like the opposite, not the opposite, but that's counter to the leverage that we have, right? Because the leverage we have is we're long-term investors. We're never going to get a capital call. We have no margin. We're only spending 4 or 5% a year. We're never going to put ourselves in jeopardy where we have to liquidate a position in order to make a capital call. So the last thing we want to do is make sure the overweight, conservative, not losing money, as opposed to looking at a 7 or 10 year horizon where we know we're going to make money over the long run, right? Which I think is typically a foundation model. Right? If you're retiring, you don't know if you're going to drop dead today or 5 years from now, you got to make sure that your capital is secure. That's not what's going on here. And I don't remember seeing that in the IPS anyway. But if it is, I mean, I would take your advice on if it needs to be looked at.
So I think I got the majority of that, Rich. When we did the asset allocation and we put this new targets in place, it was exactly the same way that other endowments and foundations do it. It's on a forward-looking basis, not a backward-looking basis. It's over a 10-year time horizon, not a 2-year time horizon.
Well, that's great then. So then why? I thought so. So then why would the statement be our first priority is conservation of capital? Kind of like first do no harm. It's conservation of capital. But in fact, the last thing we want to do, and the only reason I bring it up is if we have a bad year, we don't want everybody wigging out because, oh my God, conservation of capital, we didn't do it, we must be doing something wrong, we're going to have to take a look at this, maybe we have to relook. We want to have the stomach to say that's not what we're doing. You know what I mean? What we're doing is we have the stomach for a 7-year horizon, not the stomach for a 2-year horizon. Right?
Absolutely. You're 100% right. We're taking long-term risks. We're not trying to market time. We don't think institutions, there's really no kind of credible endowments and foundations that are taking that route. What we are doing is using those long-term assumptions to get to the best return given the constraints. I think And kind of somewhat to any input from staff on this, the preservation of capital priority was actually keeping in line with Florida bylaws. That's sort of been in the IPS since 2014 inception, to my knowledge. But that's not to say that we're, as you can tell, we're not 100% in cash, we're not 100% in bonds. We've still got the majority of our money in growth-seeking equities. What we have done, though, given the run that they've been on, is to dial down that risk and actually expand the opportunity set to both reduce risk and increase that expected return. That's what we've done.
And that is exactly what you guys did, which I thought was a great move, to reduce risk and increase potential income, which I think is fine. I just got a little nervous with the preservation of capital. It sounds like let's put it on T-bills and go home.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not.
That's not it.
Well, may I? So I wasn't here at the table when you set the most recent policy, but I understand in December is when you looked at it last. It does track, there's a Florida statute applicable to local governments and it would apply to the district that does state that the investment policy, it requires we have an investment policy and provides that it shall describe the investment objectives in the unit of local government, which shall include safety of capital, liquidity of funds, and investment income in that order, is what the statute says. So that's how we have it. We follow that statute in the adoption of our investment policy. And the only reason I'm raising all of this, we have to, that's rigid, and we have to have that and those objectives in that order, but that doesn't mean we can't maybe have another discussion about what that means and how we tease that out and whether the risk tolerance is where it should be. So we have to have that language and those priorities in the order, but we can still dive into secondary issues like risk tolerance maybe a little bit further and make sure we're on the same page if that's necessary. I don't know how thoroughly that was discussed back, last year when it was set. So.
Yeah, okay. I guess it's there, but that's a very broad concept. Leveraging everything you got in growing apple will be one side of the spectrum, right? And putting everything in tips and treasuries would be another side of the spectrum. And we just want to make sure common sense puts us in a position where we're not afraid to make long-term investments because there may be volatility. We just don't want to confuse volatility with risk.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
And I think what this says is that we're doing all four of these things, not just sole preservation.
Yeah.
No,
No, it's a good discussion.
Good discussion.
Good discussion. Thank you.
I was taken back, and I take it back when you said first party is preservation of cat line, I looked like, I don't think that's what we're doing here, but to that extent, I understand what Natalie's saying.
Okay. Other questions? Okay. Right, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to operations.
Let's get one more thing.
Yes.
We used to have a report that Matt had with all the different allocations and who was making what for the quarter of the year, kind of like a flash report. Up until a couple months ago.
Yeah, when Will Shaw was engaged, they would take over all of the all the investment reports.
And I think that's in the report.
If you could show it to me, and I apologize, because that was such a succinct
I
report.
think I thought I know it's in the quarterly report, because it was in the report last month, right? Did you see it last month? Yes. I'm sorry.
Which wasn't here for last
Oh, I'm sorry.
I got the report.
But it was in the quarterly.
It was in there?
Yes.
That's good enough.
Yes.
Quarterly's good enough. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Operations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think on page 31, just an update, I think we've been having some discussions about our operations manual. We are still working with management on that operational update. The plan is to have it for this body for their final approval next, is that right? For June.
With legal, some of it. So.
Yeah, and some of these, we engage legal to do some of it, so yeah, but we made some vast changes to it, so I'm excited about that. Thank you to Deborah Kirk and her team there for putting it together. But yeah, it's stay tuned, it's coming in June. Also, the budget process. Believe it or not, we're in that budget process again, back to work for 24, 25. I think you have in the package here, as well as that timeline. I'll need y'all to take a look at that and make sure we're all on the same page as to this process and the timing of all this. Keep in mind that our big day, I think, is in August when we actually take a look at the
We set
our
revenue.
revenue based on the August
August 15th.
15th.
So how do we look at budget dollars previous to that? We then adjust them after that number comes in,
Yeah.
pro rata, so to speak?
So to speak, yes. There's not I wouldn't say there's a lot of changes to the budget process, although we are talking about adding some additional lines like CapEx. So you may see some few things that'll be the first time in there. But
Yeah, leading up to that August 15th date, we use a rolling 3-month average of the investment balance. Leading up to that August 15th, so the preliminary budgets that we look at shouldn't have a ton of volatility once we get to the August 15th date. So there's not, you're not going to see what the potential available budget to spend is. It's there for the 15th.
What are you saying?
he's saying we're looking at 3 months.
Right. I know what you're saying. So pretty much, we have a decent idea now of what it is.
Yeah.
You got such a straight face, man, so.
I think right now we're in the process of working in the different departments, what that's going to look like. So you've got some ideas of numbers we have played with the budget this year.
And that'll help us get to the discretionary.
The one thing on the budget that if I could ask one, so I forget the name of the lawsuit that we're involved with, is that is that something that will be paid this year or next year?
That'll be, so we will, if you remember, that was a 30 to 60 day timeline.
Yeah.
We don't have, the next thing we will receive is notification from CMS of that number. Basically approval of the settlement, and they specify the number, and it's non-negotiable. So we will have that number hopefully in the next 30 days. We're almost 30 days into that 30 to 60 day window. They've acknowledged receipt of everything we needed to give them weeks ago. So now we're just waiting for that final number. So I think this fiscal year.
This fiscal year, okay.
And it'll be payable, we will be able to pay it immediately. as far as I understand.
Anything else?
No, Madam Chair.
All righty, moving on to Dave. Rich, did you have something?
No, I'm having this memory that CHS had said something, they're the ones that volunteered that violation, right? And I thought they said that they were going to assume some of that liability. I know I haven't said that in the last 2 or 3 years, but I'm thinking they said back in like 2016.
It's just so they have things different, right?
Well, they're still in business.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
We'll speak up.
we did. We fleshed that out at the outset. So these violations occurred prior to CHS. This was well known when.
Yeah, I understand that they're the ones that volunteered. We didn't volunteer, which it's regardless of who volunteered. But I think when they said that, they said to us that we don't have a problem sharing in the cost of the violation as being good neighbors. I don't know how you research that, Rob. I have no clue.
They are paying the legal bill.
They agreed to pay the legal fees for, we have an outside attorney who does this all day, every day, who's handling it. They're paying this fee. But I mean, ultimately, the cost of the reimbursement for the violation will be on us. And that is what was reflected based on the records I saw, but we're still digging through old records, so.
May just be the legal fees, I got confused.
But we're still thinking it's under 110,000, huh?
It could range from 75 to 150, I believe. Yeah, that's based on their typical handling of these things. So, but I don't have the number, and I can't recall it. The overpayment, the alleged overpayment was much more. So the amount that's being reimbursed is much less than the overpayment. And the reason they give you a break like that is because of the voluntary disclosure that was done back in 60. You're self-reporting.
Okay. Thank you.
Where do those funds go to, ultimately? Who gets the money?
CMS, Medicare.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know, eventually.
From there to
All right, we'll move on to legal. So who wants to introduce? Chris?
So, we, at the outset, when we hired Rob and his team, we identified that if there were any dealings where Rob was representing another organization, that we would have an alternative legal counsel for that particular transaction, such as an MOU or what have you. And so we had our very first MOU with the College of Central Florida that we engaged Chris Cervalera, and he was also one of the attorneys that submitted information to us to consider him as legal counsel for the hospital district. So we had quite a bit of information from him, and we've had a couple meetings already, and Chris, I'd be happy for you to introduce yourself.
Well, I'll keep my comments brief. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I grew up in Ocala, so this is pretty cool to kind of sit where Albertsons used to be, and now it's this great facility that you all have built. When I grew up in Ocala, I played a lot of basketball. I think of this as sort of like a basketball team. Unfortunately, I rode the bench a lot, and that will be my role here. Because you have a great starting five. You have Rob and his team. They love getting Batzel firm. But when you call on me, I will be ready. And I can tell you I'm a much better lawyer than I am a basketball player. So when I'm called in, I will be there, and I appreciate you letting me be here today.
Thank you, Chris. We appreciate it.
And then just briefly, I just have a couple add-ons real quickly. As you know, whatever happens with the MOU, I don't represent either party, but I, of course, have a conflict of interest, which is why Chris is helping out, so I appreciate him being here. Couple of real quick things that I'll buzz through. You all received an email from me, thanks to staff and Deborah for creating really quickly new email addresses for you. You all have mchdt.org email addresses now. We're going through a number of things to try to make it easier on you to keep what may be district records, public records organized and not confused with private accounts. It's part of being a public official, so we appreciate you doing that. But I would encourage you to use those for district business and continue to use your private accounts for non-district business. In the event of public records requests, it makes it that much easier for us just to do a dump and provide the individual with those records. I will try to use those, but I also recognize that you're not looking at them yet potentially, so maybe for a while I'll send it to both of your email addresses and then we'll try to wean off. We will be coming forward with we've been working with staff, and I owe them a number of things, one of which is a new updated procedure on public records requests. It'll come forward as a policy, so you'll be seeing that's related to the emails. Also related, we're doing trustee training, just legal issues that you may need to consider in your role as a public official and a trustee. Some of you we've already met, others were scheduled. If I haven't scheduled you yet, please reach out to me. I'll be around after the meeting. We can compare calendars and try to find a date. I was going to update on the Stark voluntary disclosures, but that's been addressed. So that's all I have, unless there are any questions.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving into strategic initiatives. Oh, wait, Deborah.
There's one more thing I didn't even, that was for.
The MOU? Okay, I'm sorry. It's more of an update, so who wants to get that?
The update is there's not really an update. I think we're waiting on Advent and CF. I think there will be a change. You all voted on a specific set of guidelines. I think it will differ from that and probably will require a new discussion and vote. So I think once we get that information, we'll provide that.
This is for the name of the building, so there's just negotiations still going on final wording between Advent Health and CF. So we didn't want you guys voting on an MOU that didn't reflect that wording.
Okay.
So we'll send that out as soon as we get it. I did turn that off, if you need to turn it on.
Is it off? No?
Oh, no, it's
Oh,
not.
okay. It's on very loud. Good evening. I trust you all have seen in your packet the scorecard updates for Beacon Point and the match and lift data. I just wanted to give you all a reminder. All of the data presented is provided to us via the providers themselves. In almost all instances, the data is shared directly from the provider's own electronic health record, and it is sent to Mindshare where it is recorded. Additionally, I included a third slide that is going to show our current client counts for Beacon Point and for our match and lift providers. When you look at that, you might have questions because there is a Q1 client count, a Q2, and a year-to-date client count. You should note that the year-to-date is not Q1 plus Q2. They're all unique client counts. So we can have a client that's unique in Q1, unique include Q2, and then in year-to-date numbers, Mindshare is going to filter out the duplicates, so you're always getting an accurate client count, whichever one you're looking at. Also, the year-to-date numbers are up to date. I actually pulled them on Friday, where your Q2 numbers are going to stop on March 31st. With that said, I briefly just want to highlight our CASA partner, who is our newest member to the Beacon Point team. They have hit the road running. They opened on February 12th. So the data that I'm going to talk to you guys about is from February 12th to March 31st, so 6 weeks. So in that 6 weeks time, CASA Marion has served 56 clients in Marion County just through the outreach center at Beacon Point. 18 of those clients were referred to an on-site provider, LifeStream, for outpatient counseling. These clients, while there, had access to safety planning, crisis counseling, goal setting, and basic needs assessments. There is an attorney that is on site almost all times to help them with those needs. Through the Outreach Center and CPI Center, which is located at the DCF office, they have been able to provide 499 services. So that is what I just talked about, the safety planning, the assessments, etc. The shelter, since they've been open, has been able to help 41 survivors by providing 888 bed nights at the shelter. 41% of those were kiddos that needed a place to stay. So they have been doing a fantastic job. None of our programs are currently facing any barriers to achieving their goals this year, but we have put in place follow-up with individual providers on a monthly and weekly basis, depending on need, to review, validate, and discuss any potential barriers or additional data collection points that would help finding areas of need or areas of success. Did you guys have any questions over any of the?
Only question, how often do we update the goals?
Once a year.
Once a year?
Yeah, once a year. There are times when I am looking over, I wasn't here last year, so there have been a few times when we run into some objectives that aren't really captured how we want them to, so then we can make an amendment. But this year we'll be discussing with all of our providers the objectives and to get them approved the new fiscal year.
We're always increasing those goals, is that correct?
We should be increasing, but I really want us to focus on keeping the actual objectives more static so that we can get a look over a long period of time. Because when we change the actual objectives every fiscal year, we're not able to compare success or not success. And that's really important when finding out where your strengths and your weaknesses are. But yes, the goals should, depending on what the objective is, be increasing.
And you couldn't push that 499 and 5.
Look at the number there. Before I sit down.
Madam Chair, may I ask just a point of clarification? Okay, so I'm sorry to put you on the spot. We've gotten questions about the data, and you mentioned at the beginning. I just want to be clear. So am I correct to understand that the provider self-reports this data?
Yes.
And then it goes into a program called Mindshare, which is what
So it's
lands
really,
on our... Okay, sorry.
It's really neat. So Mindshare connects directly with their EHRs, electronic health records. So all of our big providers, our Match, our LIP, our Beacon Point, SMAs, LifeStream, they're attached.
if you will, in the background. So their data streams run, and we pull out the information that we all sit down and agree upon. So it is automatic. It's fantastic. All of our smaller grantees, they manually put in their information. So that's different, but they're still putting their information on. They just don't have electronic health records to pull from.
Okay, thank
Does
you.
that answer?
Thank you.
Because I like talking about us.
Yeah, yes, I appreciate it.
Before I sit down though, if you don't mind, I do want to take a moment to highlight one of several success stories from Beacon Point's endeavors that I have received over the last quarter. This is just in Q2. The stories, I received quite a few stories. This is just one that I picked. But they underscore the profound effect of the butterfly effect within the realm of recovery. As we know, the butterfly effect suggests that small actions can lead to significant unforeseen circumstances. Sometimes the butterfly effect results in a warm breeze, while at other times, it unleashes a tidal wave of change. Likewise, the story I'm about to share highlights how the positive changes in one individual life can create ripples of transformation, not only within their immediate circle, but throughout the entire community. It's not that long. I just gotta click. So I received, like I said, I received several emails. I'm just highlighting one that we got from our MAP program at Beacon Point, which is the Medication Assisted Treatment Program. This client just passed their 1-year anniversary 3 weeks ago. They are doing very well and are totally focused on their recovery. At the same time, running a successful business. This client came through our detox at Beacon Point 4 times before finally getting on their recovery journey full time. The client's business is flourishing and currently has more work than they can keep up with. They now hire all of their workers from recovery programs like NA or AA. Side note, this is the second success story this year that involves this type of giving back and second chance mentality of program graduates, especially those that have the ability to impact their community on a broader level. This client states that they look for people that need money to pay rent or living expenses and purposely hire them to assist them early in their recovery with covering their financial needs to gainful employment. The client stated, "It's my way of giving back to those who helped me out when I needed it." This client said that they are very, very grateful for Beacon Point and what we did for them. This client utilized detox, residential, MAP, Access Center, and a live stream over the past year. Along with that, I got a little note from the Director of Recovery Support Services at Beacon Point. He just threw this in there, but I thought it was perfect. He said, "I like to think beyond the individual and try to imagine how far does helping this one person go? How many lives would be better if we helped this one? How many kids will have a parent again, avoid a tragedy, or simply just improve their quality of life? We never truly know who or how many we affect. In this case, we were able to see for ourselves, but often don't know. Everyone should be given the opportunity for success, even if it takes multiple times to get there."
Thank you. Next.
I got one question on the strategic side.
Can you talk a little bit?
Yeah, so Cheryl Martin was saying that the county can draw down a lot more money through the continuum of care if that system, HMIS, is that right, is used more than it is being used. And I thought we have two ways of looking at it. One is we have leverage because of our funding of some of these guys that are not necessarily compliant. And maybe when we write that we agree to give them money, that they agree to be compliant on filling out the HMIS stuff. And then the second thing is, it's not that easy to do that. Everybody's got all different systems and the systems are not integrated, but I think you guys are working on picking up some software that'll integrate almost anybody's system with the HMIS system, so there's no duplication of it, so we make their life easier. I strongly recommend that we make sure we invest that money and that time into doing that so that we can, from what Cheryl says, there's millions of dollars. I don't know, now I'm not saying $10 million, but there's $2 million, it's $3 million on an annual basis available that we're not drawing, not us, but the county's not drawing down because we don't have the input to show the need. So if we can do both of those things, I think that
So what's the root of that problem? Why aren't they compliant? Is it?
There's natural pushback. It's just, they have their system, and that's what they're going to do. And the second thing is, it's problematic to them to be able to, it's a lot of double entry stuff, and they're busy trying to save lives, they're not busy trying to fill out paperwork. So they don't really fully appreciate that the county is not getting the money they could be getting because someone's not filling out their paperwork. So. I
Is
think
any of it restricted to the cost of the programs?
I don't think so. And Kurt, you guys know better than me. I think it comes down to, no, you gotta do it. And two is we're gonna make your life easier on how to do it. I think, but I'm always got these simplistic approaches and stuff.
Yeah, so this is something that the hospital district's been working with community services on for the last few months, really doing exactly what you're saying. So the name of the health, or the records database is their coordinated entry database. And so a lot of the data that's pulled directly from that system dictates how much our county gets based on the numbers. So if someone's not putting in or capturing numbers such as it could be the hospitals, it doesn't just have to be nonprofits. It's us showing that there's a need in this community through this database. So the cost is actually the cost of personnel or opportunity cost. Someone actually has to physically enter in the data into a separate system. So one of the things that I've been working on with Cheryl and her team it's what we've been successful with our data and records is working on an interface that will tie into each organization's database. Now, not everyone has one that will work, but I would say the majority of medium-sized, larger organizations that participate or serve the homeless in one way or another, if we eliminate the problem of double data entry and also setting up the interface for the organization and handle the maintenance, we might be able to alleviate 90% of the issues and also reduce the cost because there's not double data entry. So it's not so much us purchasing a software as much as it is working with the organization that provides coordinated entry databases and software and determining what requirements they have for their interfaces. So we're working on that and collecting data from our key providers who aren't participating and finding out how do we solve your problem. And each one's going to be a little unique. But honestly, I agree. We have the teeth to put this into our agreements, and if someone does have the ability to enter data into coordinated entry so we can capture the dollars, that's something I do want to propose to the board, but at the same time, I want to propose this also, we eliminated the double data entry for our providers.
This would be a great time to do for the new fiscal year, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Good, thank you.
Thank you for bringing it up. Next.
Is it 211?
Yes.
211. I guess I need this back. I came to the board a little while ago, and I have in here the original request from United Way, where basically they were identifying that they did not have enough funds this year to pay for, I think it was the $200,000 for them to engage in a contract with 211. 211 is like 911 or 411. It's kind of a combo for nonprofit type services or behavioral health. The primary areas where a citizen from Marion County would call 211 is housing and shelter, mental health services, help with utility assistance, government or typically legal services, and then also they call 211 for help with assistance with employment and improving their income. So last year we had outputs that were provided to us of 24,000 calls from Marion County to 211. 211 has a call center that's out of Broward, and that's where their call center is. 211 is across the state, just about every, I haven't been able to confirm if there's a single county that has dropped 211 and gone to an alternative, but my concern that I brought up last time when I mentioned this, we have a $30,000 ask to contribute towards 211 because they need $100,000 to cover the financial gap. So we had a joint meeting of stakeholders last week, and the group of us discussed with United Way what our concerns were about 211, that we do have outputs, but how do we evaluate the efficacy of the calls, and if the calls really lead to people getting help. So we don't have that. They don't have the ability to capture that information because some of it they would have to follow up and get client information. So one of the solutions we came up during the meeting was that the stakeholders would split up the duty to have secret shoppers for each content area expert. So we would have someone, a group from either the hospital district, SMA, calling up about behavioral health and substance use disorder issues and seeing how the calls are handled. Then we would have an organization call for housing, shelter, utilities, legal, and see how it's handling. We would come back together with that information, and then after about 6 months in the next year, compare the notes to see if it is truly an efficacious system. That's the only way, is us collecting our own data because it doesn't exist. The fear is that if we don't help contribute, it's almost like a COVID, that it really doesn't fit into our bucket except for possibly the calls that go to behavioral health and substance use disorder, but we don't know the unintended consequences of the people that are calling 211, because if they're calling for substance use disorder and behavioral health, that alone could increase our overdoses or negate the ability for our citizens to get help. So we want to dig in. And so I come back to you with the same request of $30,000 because the other partners in the room made a commitment that we would cobble together the $100,000 gap if well, and it kind of depends on us here, because this is one piece of the puzzle. So I'm asking for the $30,000, so that would give us 1 year, so we can evaluate the efficacy. And I think the group made it clear that this was a 1-year commitment.
Because it would be nice if they'd done this already. You know, no whether it works, it's a little scary. 25 years down the road, or however long this is going on.
Wow.
Second gut feeling is if they're in Broward County, I find it almost impossible to believe that they have real-time information. Have you guys made any calls yet?
No.
I'd love to just ask them if they've even heard of Beacon Point. They'd probably tell you someplace on the beach in Fort Lauderdale. But, you know.
So the big question is the decision tree that they have in front of them. You know, so when someone calls, how does the decision tree pull up and what organizations? Because if the first thing that they pull up is a methadone clinic for behavioral health or substance use disorder, that's an issue. So that's something that.
So how many different categories were they? I apologize, I missed the list.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 primary categories that make up the bulk of the calls.
So we're paying 50% more than what appears to be a pro rata share. You know, if we're 1/5 of it, I mean, it's not that, I don't want to trivialize $30,000.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you made any calls to date, just to check and see what happened?
No, we had our meeting on Friday, and
Okay. The other question.
What were you doing Saturday?
I wish I had made calls.
The one other question is, have you seen the computer system, see what pops up when you call?
No, I haven't.
His phone a friend, what's the number?
211.
It's been, what's it?
You can take a 10-minute recess and step outside and I'll make a call.
We can all do it.
I've been living in Marion County a long time, I've never heard of 211. How do people know to call 211?
Too spoiled.
I mean,
There is a lot of, I would just say there is a lot of literature out there and a lot of reassurance of what numbers to call. I've got brochures in my office that says call 211.
but wouldn't people call 911 and then it just gets deferred somehow? I mean, I don't know, could you just basically enhance the dispatch capability of 911?
The whole reason for 211 was because that's
Take
what
it off at
costs.
911.
Law enforcement.
I don't get it, because nobody knows what 211 is, why would they call them?
There's been commercials on TV.
All right.
I've never heard of it.
Excuse me,
You
Yes.
don't watch TV?
We have
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the $30,000 and 6 months from now we come back to those efficacy rates.
Yeah, I second that.
so we have a motion,
I have a question.
discussion, yes.
Yeah, I just, did the county decide to stay with us? Okay, because.
At 50,000.
Okay, so if the county and the city have already agreed, then, okay, that's all.
All right, so,
Madam Chair, I need to abstain again.
okay, you got your
I
form?
got my form, but I filled it last time, got to fill it again?
Yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. Branson does not get any sort of compensation for making a vote. So why would he have to abstain from voting for this?
Well, he's on the board of the recipient nonprofit, as I understand it, the United Way, right? So we are voting on whether to provide assistance to the
I
United
agree,
Way.
but even being on that board, he's not compensated by that board either.
Yeah, but if you're a principal,
I mean, it
He's
could
a-
be a perception thing, but he does not have any financial compensation to this, so I.
no, agreed. It's just, so just like a nonprofit is treated like a business that you're a principal or owner of, so a vote to benefit a nonprofit if you are a principal, just like the college and the MOU.
So my county does not keep me from voting whenever, and I serve on several boards.
Okay.
And our attorney does not believe that I have to abstain from voting,
Okay,
so I just do that.
okay. Well, in case, I would advise in the moment to always err on the side of disclosing it. But I will commit to following up on
All right,
that.
so
I call Guy for advice a lot.
Okay.
So.
Rusty is abstaining, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Deborah, I think that's you. Or parking lot.
Could be all of us. So with increased services at Beacon Point,
Take one of these.
I got it. With increased services at Beacon Point, increased parking issues at Beacon Point. We talked about this probably well over a year ago, and our services have increased. Kimley Horn put a proposal together, as you will see, it is on page 46 and 47 of your packet. 46 of your packet is what they're recommending as like their process of doing a survey, doing what the construction and survey layout would look like, all of what it would take to put a parking lot in. I know when David Cook was looking at it, you were thinking this was going to be like a $500,000 project.
I don't know, I thought it could be more than this.
Right, so we would like to request of the board is that we have the money in the budget, of the Beacon Point budget, and Matt can talk about what budget items line we have. But we would like to engage Kimley Horn and with a $30,000 that you'll see in the budget to do the survey, permitting, and, what is the other thing that they're doing with the engineering?
It's all site civil engineering.
And then will we manage the bidding process for the actual one?
Yes.
So our policy on awarding, I guess, the contract for survey engineering in Horn, does it, I assume it doesn't require, or what level does it require bid process?
Sorry, I was reading about conflicts of interest. Stop, you caught me. I'll make you repeat, I'm sorry.
I said, what our policy, what dollar amount are we required to get bid, or are we required to get bid at any dollar amount for services such as, this is a
It's
contract?
going to be based on the internal purchasing, if we have a purchasing and procurement policy. Yeah, we can set our own thresholds. There's no state law that says there's a
Okay.
right line, but we set our own and we have to follow our own.
Deborah's looking at it.
And I was going to say, I haven't sat here long enough to know that off the top of my head, so.
Deborah's looking it up.
They had done some free stuff for us to get us to this point.
Chances are, well, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So, using engineering firms, normally they're hourly, and I think the proposal will cover hourly, so.
Yeah, I'm okay, I just making sure that we're following our, some of our, just to make sure we're following our policy, how we award contracts.
We can make the motion to cover it that way.
Yeah, sure.
As long as it meets our requirements.
I move to accept this proposal for basically generating for $30,000 for now.
So do you want to elaborate on that? That it
I
has
mean,
to be
that covers
within our-
that initial, I mean, that is a recommendation, right?
This is, yeah. So we're gonna approve $30,000, provided we're allowed to.
Yeah, subject to,
Subject to the
Subject to
review
their
of.
follows our policy, yeah.
Yes.
But we can override it as a vote, right?
We just would need to notate we are following our policy.
Yes, so- and the way these are typically drafted is there's a threshold set forth and then also situations where you can deviate from. And it's usually when it's like a sole source provider or a unique type of service. So survey engineering, permitting, it's probably not within exclusion. So it's the hard and fast line or threshold is probably gonna
Okay.
govern.
So we have a first, I guess?
We have a motion. We need a second.
Second.
We have a first and a second, and we have any other discussion?
Just want somebody to say it so we get it right, exactly how we're gonna do it, because I think we're adding stuff to his motion, so let's make sure you have it.
Okay, so which one do you want to repeat it?
I mean,
This is one of
it needs to be conditional on that our policy meets.
Rusty, what did you say?
What I thought I second was there was a motion table to approve up to $30,000 award a contract to Kimley Horn for the survey engineering permitting subject to it being in compliance with our policy.
Yes. Any questions related to that? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
So, I apologize, but I know we talked about it, but we didn't say it in your motion, where the money was coming from. You mentioned where it was coming from. It's already in the budget.
It's already.
So we don't have to worry about that? Okay.
Matt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Included in the packet, in the finance section, beginning on page 48 through 56 of the financial statements for the month of April 2024, as well as the fiscal year-to-date period ended April 2024. With regard to the balance sheets, the biggest items on the balance sheet remain the investments. As already previously reported earlier in the meeting, they suffered losses during the period of just under $8 million. For the month of April, year-to-date, investment earnings are $26.5 million, so still doing fine. Also noted on the revenues and expenditures pages are the expenditures of this organization, which do remain in compliance and within budget constraints. Any questions about the financial statements as provided, and if not, we receive the motion.
Yeah, now that we're aware of the lawsuit that we have liability and exposure, and we have some idea of what that maximum exposure is going to be, at what point in time do we recognize that in the financial statements?
Well, it can be fungible at this point, so we could put 150,000 if that's the high end. We could take a really conservative approach and begin to do that. In the event that it's a 30 to 60 day turnaround, it's all within the same fiscal year. We're just waiting for a final number. If you'd like to see it on the monthly financial statements, we can make 150 as a conservative approach, and obviously then adjust once the real number comes in.
I thought we already had, but I guess no.
I didn't see it in the book, Madam Chair.
We should be counting that. Yes.
Yeah.
I think we should recognize it.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. That would bring up a question though, because it would represent itself on the budget to actual, and it's not included in our budget yet. So in order to put financial, we need to include it in financial, we need to discuss where it's going to show on the budget. It would, traditionally, these legacy costs of running a hospital that we no longer run have been outside of each fiscal year's budget cap of 4%. I would suggest to the trustees' delight, we would account for that the same way, which is not pulling from any other line items, creating a new line item of $150,000 in order to support the accrual. Obviously, will likely come in under budget or at budget with that number.
I would agree with that.
That's perfect.
Any other questions on the financial statements as presented? Not, do you seek a motion?
So we do need a motion.
I'll make a motion,
We have a
Madam Chair.
motion to approve the financials, and we need a second.
Second.
We have a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Budget allocation.
Yes, also seeking approval, regularly comparing budget to actual reports. We are going to have a surplus in Beacon Point operations, and there's a request of management that we reutilize those funds to more target populations in need of our programming and our services, as opposed to letting those funds sit by idly. So seeking a motion and approval for $69,000 to be reallocated out of the Beacon Point operations line, spread amongst the general operations, active Marion project, fans, and community home project, all internal programs in the Marion County Hospital District, aimed at bringing attention to those who need the services to get them into our programs.
Why wouldn't you just put it into the discretionary fund account? Then you can put it any way as you want, as opposed to pro-rata, putting it across all, now you're tied to $5,000 stuck in fans when you don't want $5,000 stuck in fans. I mean, it just gives you more freedom to do what you want that way.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Why don't we just put it in that bucket of discretionary? We have a discretionary fund bucket of some kind.
True, right. Now, the trustees have, in order to utilize those funds, the trustees have to meet and approve. In theory, then each time we need to tap into those dollars for targeted marketing, targeted education for our community, the trustees
Why
have
would
to
we just put it
approve.
general operating?
We try to allocate such costs amongst the operations.
I know, but if you put them across each one, then you're stuck.
I don't mind doing it any way you guys prefer. Not an argument here, I'm trying to be clear.
We're not arguing.
The
We're not
best
arguing.
is domain.
You picked the wrong guy to argue with.
I feel like because it's one of my first meetings, did you just meet Rich?
Because you know what I'm saying, man? Why would, because then you're gonna put X amount in this, in amp, right, the next amount in fence?
Correct.
So why put yourself in a box like that?
I think
For
that
efficiencies, I
we
guess.
had talked about using it to market, like actually use it for marketing.
Specific
This
program, which we've done.
So you already have it spent if you got it?
Plans.
Is that what we're saying?
Plans.
Oh, okay. I thought,
The reason it's been allocated through this
Public awareness.
request is because that's how we set up the
Okay,
original
so
budget.
it's
Each
not-
budget does already have their own
Okay.
buckets for marketing and educational purposes. So again, it's $69,000 to be spread through operations and fans and community home projects.
So we will see a revised budget then with those reallocations in the specific areas. Okay.
Yeah, we just had a budget amendment prior to this meeting. This would be another, so it'll probably be a good time to refresh the budget for everybody
Okay.
by next meeting.
Okay.
No, we can put it in one here.
Yeah.
Okay. So we need a motion.
Does everybody understand it? I mean, does everybody understand what we're doing?
I think I can get it.
Richard, you good now?
yeah, I think I understand.
I'm just making sure, because
Do you understand it?
yeah, I've already, but I got it explained to me, so I mean, it doesn't sound the same when it comes from Matt. But it did.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just have a question as to, is there a reason why that wouldn't have been a part of the board package so that others would have known what we were walking in here to consider, since it was for approval purposes?
Yeah, we've discussed it. I agree with you, and I think we have that done.
Gotcha. Okay.
Does everyone understand? Any other questions? Okay, so we need a motion to approve the reallocation of those funds.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
When we first did this arrangement with CHS, which eventually was signed with Pat, this is back in the days, Ed Dean was one of our consultants. He brought these guys from Cambridge, Massachusetts here, Institute of Health Improvement. And there was a guy on that team that espoused this idea of somehow you could change the culture in your population that would pay bigger dividends than anything as far as improving health. And he pointed out, some place like Denver, that has the right culture, or better culture. I think the last meeting I mentioned that I saw on Netflix one night, this show about blue zones. And there's these 5 or 6 blue zones around the planet where people, live to unusually higher, longer life expectancies. And one of the ingredients, when they went back at the end of the show and said, what are the common elements here? Of course, nutrition and exercise, of course, are very prevalent. But also another one was kind of a community connection, that the population there were more connected with each other. And that evidently, plays some role, as opposed to people being isolated by themselves. With that being said, I was talking to Kurt the other day, and I think I said several meetings ago that I was driving around one day with Freddie McKenzie, and we just happened to go by the Mary C. Rich Community Center. And now we were just I couldn't believe it either, how busy that place was on a weekday. And Kurt was telling me the other day something about you or somebody drove by there, and how many people were out there playing pickleball?
Big, pickleball's big.
yeah.
It was almost 30. It's big.
It's amazing.
His wife is cleaning up, by the way.
So, my parting words are that I think that some of the things that this organization has accomplished are really incredible. I mean, right next door to the Heart of Florida, the partnership there, the money we've invested at CF for the nursing and health sciences programs there. And I know Kurt really likes these deals where we fund, capital projects, improvements, and we put the money in the pot and they have the keys and they run the operation, and we don't really have long-term operational liability. So, with that being said, I just hope this board in the future can find ways to percolate those ideas and prioritize those ideas and find funding. The Mary C. Rich Center was a $10 million project. I don't know where $8 million of it came from. We put up $2 million. That's awesome to find community partners like that, certainly. But, if I had to say, gee whiz, could we find a population in Marion County, whether it's in Bellevue or Silver Spring Shores or some in southwest Marion County, out in the 60th Avenue 200 corridor, someplace to kind of earmark, hey, within 5 years, we can, generate the funding and start looking for partners to do those kind of projects. I think that's something we should have on our calendar. Thanks, and I really enjoyed this experience. And y'all keep it.